And hello, and welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network. And today I am with the stunning Alice Miriam for the premiere episode of Creating Your Connection Capital. And we've talked a lot about building communities and how we do that. And now I want to take it into the practical business side. And Alice is amazing at that. So we're going to talk about best practices today, how you build, how you structure, what you do to create those connections that are required to build a business. Hello, Alice.
Well, hello, Briar. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm very excited about what we're going to be talking about today.
Me too.
It's going to be amazing. We have fun when we chat together. So,
Always.
uh, we might get out of control, y'all. So you'll just have to bear with us. No, it'll be fun.
So let's talk about what it looks like to build an audience. An audience is different from a community, right? Let's start there. What is the difference between a community and an audience?
Uh, well, that's kind of at the core of what building your connection capital is all about, right? Is that it's a journey that you're on with people. So audience is sort of that first level where people are aware that you exist. So they're people that are, it maybe in your space, or they could be people that are connected to people that are in your space, right? And they somehow will come in contact with your name, with your content, even maybe with your products or services. They somehow come into contact. That really could be considered your audience. And I know that maybe runs counter to a lot of what you might hear, where your audience are, oh, you have this many followers and that's your audience on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that is. But that's not your only audience, right? Your audience is people can share your content out, they'll share your stuff. And so people that aren't following you still come into contact with it, right? So that all of that extension is part of your audience, part of the thing that people see you, right? And they know you exist.
So, if community is about building relationships, audience is about building visibility.
Absolutely. So you're building up your visibility, but you're doing it in a really specific way because you are still thinking about what that community aspect, right? Because connection capital at its core is really rooted res, um, in a mutual investment in a relationship, right? So as you start with that audience, you have to have that big picture goal in mind of what that next step level of the relationship is. So you're starting with the bigger picture and the knowledge in mind that you are going to take them on this journey to create that community with the very right people for that community.
Reciprocity was the word
Reciprocity.
you were looking for.
I was like, I it's there and then it left me. Hello, ADHD brain. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I saw it and went, "Oh, I know what word that was." So, and it's the right word. You're giving something to someone as they take something away. And they give something to you. So how do you build reciprocity into your audience relationships?
It's That's a really good question. And here's the answer that people won't is it depends, right? It depends on your goals. It depends on your business. What kind of business do you have? So there's a lot of things, and that's one of the biggest sort of myths out there, or biggest issues that I see, is that you can't follow this cookie cutter thing and expect to get the best results for yourself. I mean, we can all kind of start our journey that way, right? Like, start sort of, oh, this person did this, let me try that, you know? So testing is a big part of it, testing the things that are going to work for you and for your people. But so every audience, every community is unique to a lot of things. It's unique to you and your personality, who you are. It's unique to who those ideal clients, that audience is for you. And then you mix in their specific goals, your specific goals, your business's goals. Like, there's all sorts of things that will have an impact on what that looks like for you. And so it's just as much of, when we talk about a journey for your clients, for your audience, it's just as much of a journey for you as the business owner, which is something I think a lot of people don't talk about. Like, this is a journey for you too. You are learning and growing. You don't, like, while it's really great to have the big picture in mind and sort of understand what your goals are and how things work, and having the right expectations, that's a big one. um, how that works. But if you have that bigger picture understanding, then you can move forward with a bit more confidence of, okay, I can test this out, right? You can put out this information without it being like, oh, I can't put anything out until I have it exactly right. No, put it out there, see what happens. You are allowed to change and grow.
I think actually that's where we start, Alice. Expectations.
Mm.
What are the appropriate expectations for one to have when building an audience? What does that look like? How do you monitor that? Like, how do you build? I think, and let's be honest, this is the guru's fault, right? Like, they say, just build it and they will come. Just put a Facebook ad out and they will come. Just get on TikTok and you too can get 75,000 new followers, just like I did in the last 60 days. They don't talk about the machine behind all of those enterprises. And so I think people come into this with wildly incorrect expectations.
They absolutely do. And I'm so like, the fact that you even just said about the gurus, right? Because here's the thing. It can feel really overwhelming. You can see so I had a client, and we set some really reasonable goals based on where they were at their journey right now for audience development. Set some really clear goals. And like, the results matched up exactly with what those goals were. And yet that client was really disappointed. And I was so confused. I'm like, we set these goals, we talked about it, and you actually exceeded the goal a little bit, a smidgen. Like, that's a huge win. And then a couple of weeks later, on Facebook, a mutual friend of mine and this client's, or not friend, but a mutual connection of mine and this client's, posted some stuff on Facebook about, how many people they got on their new funnel, and how their 90% conversion rate. And I'm like, this is why they're disappointed, because there's no context with that number. Can some people get a 90% conversion? Sure. If they have a hot audience, if they already have a lot of people in their space. But is that where you are? Do you have a lot of people in your space? And so a lot of times the gurus end up giving people false expectations because they're not giving context to the numbers they're putting out there. Oh, I just got this person this month, much things. There was a person, I was browsing someone's blog and they had this post about, how this challenge they ran got them X number of new leads, right? And they had a little screenshot with, how many this week, 1,000 or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, that's I know this person, so I happen to know that they already had a challenge that they tweaked, and they took all the people from the other challenge and funneled them into the new challenge. They posted about it in their group, which had a couple thousand people in it already, right? And so they drove hot traffic there. But if you don't know that about this person, then you think, oh, I could get 1,000 new people if I do this challenge or what. But is that where you are? Do you already have these hot people ready to go? And so there has been a huge disservice from the gurus, right? Because here's the thing, they do have the audience, they do have the numbers to get that many leads, but how did they get there? Like social media changes and evolves so very quickly. It was, 10 years ago, running Facebook ads was like printing your own money. Okay. It
Right. I
just
had saw
was.
a friend who had a post up from 2018 and was talking about her, I believe, like 17-cent CTR. And I'm
Right.
like, because it was 2018, right? You can't
Mhm.
expect those kinds of numbers anymore. And
No.
people are generally being dishonest about the real world expectations. So, how do you create those expectations for yourself? What are you looking at? What are the leading and lagging indicators that we can kind of use to define what's going to make this work?
Well, you know what? The first thing that you have to do is, I mean, you can certainly look at what some of the gurus are doing. They're doing some stuff, right? They built their audience in the past, but don't get misguided on the fact that a lot of the results they have now are from the momentum that they've built from before. It continues to move forward. And so don't get disheartened, because that means that it's possible for you to build that kind of momentum. It may take a little bit longer now to build that momentum than it used to. It may take, you may need to learn a few more things in order to make that happen. But if you're consistent, then their potential to build momentum is there, because that's one of the biggest things that happens, is that we get disappointed because we have this big expectation and we don't see the results, and so we give up or we change direction, right? Like, that's one of the biggest reasons people yo-yo with what their business is and what their key messages are, or what kind of content or what services they're offering. They yo-yo because they put some stuff out and they don't get the results they think they should get, and so they start over again. And it's just this constant cycle of starting over again and over again. And then you lose the very things that the gurus did in order to get where they are. And that was be consistent and leverage every interaction to continue to build momentum on it, no matter how small that interaction is. So the first thing is, don't look at other people's audiences and think, well, they did it, why can't I do it? Because you don't know what they did to get that audience. They could have bought them, right? Do you want to pay for an audience? Do you want to buy stuff like that? They could have built their audience 10 years ago. It's a lot different now. So don't get hung up on that kind of stuff. Always know that if someone is telling you something that's really incredible, like, ooh, that's a great result, there's probably information missing. There's context. It's not that they're flat out lying. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is they're missing context. Yeah, they got 1,000 new leads in this funnel, but those are leads they had from something else. These are people they already knew. And so you have to ask yourself is, are you there yet? And embracing starting where you are, right? It's embrace where you are, and it's okay to want more. It's okay to set that goal to want more, but just embrace where you are, that you're starting where you are. Don't have to fake it till you make it. You don't have to go out there and pretend like you have, 100,000 people on your email list if you only have 100. It is more important in that scenario. 100% quality over quantity. You need that. Absolutely.
So let's talk about consistency, because that's really the thing that is going to make or break you, right?
Mhm.
We here in this space both have ADHD. Consistency is hard.
Mm.
Consistency is hard. It is difficult to not get distracted by shiny objects, to not lose things or shift things. Okay. How do we build consistencies into our processes? How do we make it so that it's easier to do when it's hard?
Mm. That is going to depend on, what your struggles are. You can look at those and just be real with yourself, because that's what I've had to do. Like, I start looking at how I'm going to build what I'm going to build in the way that feels the best for me. And so part of that is testing out things. Part of that for me, like, I have ADHD. So one of the things that works sometimes in my favor to help me for when I'm like done, I have no spoons left at all, is the fact that I do get hyper focused when I'm really excited about something. So I can sit back and create a lot of stuff, in that time, where there's no way I'm putting all of that stuff out there at the moment, but I've now created it all. And it's like, what did I just do? Like, what, wow, I did all of that stuff. And then I'm exhausted and I'm like, okay, I'm not even doing anything with that right now. Right. So then in those moments, when it is time to put something out there, I can go, okay, what do I already have that I've put all this energy into that I can now leverage in this moment when I don't want to be on camera today, or, I don't want to create something. I have files in my folders in my computer just save with content I haven't used yet, that I've created, things I've written, even graphics. I have a folder in Canva. Sometimes I go down a rabbit hole in Canva and I'm like, what did I just spent all day doing this, and I like, what? So know what
The
your struggles are and try to
dead
leverage them.
files, right?
Try to leverage some of that, and don't and very, very importantly, don't get stuck in a cycle of guilt. Don't feel bad because you couldn't do a thing on a day, and then let the guilt of that drag you down even further. Like, one of the best things I ever did for myself was just say, yep, that's me. And then move on. Like, oh, I didn't do that then, but you know what? It's okay. I've got energy today to do this. That's all.
So, how do we know if something is working?
That's a good question. You have to know what you're reaching for. You have to know what your goals are and what you want to do. So, every single thing you do should have some form of a goal attached to it. You should know and you should know how you're going to track that goal. It's not enough to just set the goal. You have to look at, okay, what are going to be my metrics? How am I going to know if I've reached this goal or if I'm close to this goal? So if your goal is to, get 100 new Facebook followers, or, Instagram followers, then you have a place to track it, right? But, that might not be your only goal, right? Because it's not just about getting followers. You could have I see plenty of accounts out there that have 10,000, 100,000 followers. And then I look through their feed. They have one like, two likes, and 100,000, 10,000 followers, first of all, they probably bought those leads and they're not
Correct.
relevant to their content, right? So it's not just about getting the followers. It's also about what does that engagement look like? How invested is your audience in you, right? How much are they paying attention to what you're doing? So you want to set a few metrics of what that looks like for you based on your business and what your goals are. How much activity do you want? Because maybe it's not that. Maybe it's email. Maybe you want people to message you. Maybe you want, what is it that you really want out of that engagement? What is that step that you want your audience to take to know that they're engaged?
And I think it's important to mention here, virality is difficult to predict or engineer. And I say this as someone with millions now, millions of views on a reel of a cat reaching underneath a door and pulling back the doorstop, and it makes that twang noise. Millions of views. What the hell am I doing with that? So it's really, really important that you build out your structure to support your business and your goals over the long term. I'm not doing anything with those millions of views on my reel, and but if they go and look me up, right, then they'll find my website in my about me. They'll have links to click to get to places that are relevant. I still get followers from that fucking cat video. Man, cat video. I mean, it's on brand for me, certainly, certainly, but you can't predict what will do that for you. So you have to be real clear around what kind of content you are creating, what it looks like, what the dynamics are, and what works and what doesn't. Let's talk about testing. Alice, how do you figure out what works and what doesn't?
You have to swallow your pride and post it.
Oh, ouch.
Yes, you
Feeling
have.
that one a little bit this morning.
Yes, and it's very hard. Nobody wants to feel judged. Nobody want you like you put something out there and you don't want people to go, oh boy, they're lame or they're what like. And so we do have a lot of fears around that kind of stuff because human nature, we all want to be seen as positively. We want people to like us. We want people to, I have an ego and it's fragile sometimes. So I completely understand. But you have to swallow that pride, that ego. You have to push the ego back and say, nope, I'm doing this so that you can test it. Having some key messages of who you are, what you're about, what your services are, what your products are, what having those things ready to go, having things that you can say over and over and over again is really important. And not just having like a handful of key messages, but having like 10 ways you can say each of those things to start putting it out there and see how people respond to it. Right? How many people are like, oh, yeah, that's great? Or how many people message you after that? How many people make a comment after that? How many people click through to your website after that? Like, you just have to test it. And if you're testing something and you're tracking it and you're like, this one's not really hitting home right now, so let me get rid of that and try this one. Right? You just have to put it out there. It's an experiment. right? You're on a journey discovering what works. There is not any one person who has ever built a business who has just said, "Oh, here's my message and let me put it out there." And now, like, they're, they have a million followers and they're a billionaire. No, like, no. An author that I really like, I saw him speak once, John Gordon. And I'm sure lots of famous people have, talked about this, like, their overnight success. Like, he's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, he had the experience of where he's working, 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 and then all of the sudden it starts to pay off. And that's happens for a lot of people. So just know that there really instant success doesn't it that's not a reality, right? That's not likely to happen to you. So base your goals and base what you're doing on the majority, the tried and true way, which is to just test some messages and content, right? You don't have to create an entire course and then try to put it out there and say, "Oh, nobody bought it." After, you posted twice on social media about it. That's not how it's going to happen for you, right? Instead of building out the whole course, what are the messages around this course? Start putting out that content to see if it resonates and draws people into you. Then you've got something, right? Until then, you don't know. And you have to be patient. It's
I cannot
not
remember.
easy for me.
I can't remember the number, but it was. I saw a post this morning. Mr. Beast pays, I don't know, like $300,000 to shop his titles, which isn't really shocking. And considering the amount of money he makes with every single YouTube video that he puts up, that seems like a good investment. And I encourage you to really think about creating your content, creating your top of funnel communications in that way. How do you test, try new things? How do you experiment? I'll tell you how I experiment. I do a podcast a day with somebody different every single day. And people come for specific things. And people are subscribing to the Neurodiversity Media Network on Substack. I'll drop the link in a minute. And eventually, people will likely subscribe to the paid tier, which has a private podcast of me. And right, so this is how you build sequentially and test. Now, I do podcasts because I like podcasts. And that's important, right, Alice? It's important that you like your channels. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So, yes, if you hate video, then don't focus on video. Don't focus on, "Oh, I have to get over it because that's what the medium people are using, and I've been told I have to do video. I have to do video." You know what? You don't have to start there. Would it probably be good for you to start getting comfortable on camera and start being able to do that? Sure, it would be. But you don't have to do that. You can start with writing if that's where you're the most comfortable. Start with a blog, right? You can absolutely do that. SEO, hello, thank you. Like, that's a long-term strategy right there. Having that blog content. But if you do like video, then video is fantastic. We're on video right now. This is a video and the audio is going in a podcast. Can transcribe it, put it up there on a blog, pull out clips to post on the TikTok and the Instagram or wherever else you want to put it. Like, there are options when you find that form. You can even there's a ton of software now. You can
Mhm.
take a blog post and upload it and it'll create a dang video for you. Like, you can do that. So there are lots of options. So don't feel like because some guru told you this is what you have to do, this is the channel you have to use, this is the medium you have to use. If you want to go anywhere, don't let that hold you back from testing. And I will say one of the sort of myths that's out there that I hear a lot from people. And it's mostly from people who are like, trying to reassure people who are new in business. And they're like, you don't have to do all the channels. You can just do one thing and master it. Right. You're not going to master any channel. They change their algorithms and their rules and their stuff every single day. Like I used to be able to say I knew some stuff about Facebook, okay? But they love to keep you on your toes. Like every time I log into my groups that I admin, they've changed the location of where they put stuff. Like it takes me 10 minutes every time I log into Facebook now just to find where the thing went, right? Because it's in a new spot.
I know
So,
an ads guy who is constant. This is his job. This is all he does. Ads. Who is complaining every other day about the fact that Facebook or Google has moved something someplace
mhm,
where it wasn't before, or this thing isn't working. Like, you could make that your entire full-time job
yep.
and you will never master a channel.
It's true. It's true. So don't be like, "Oh, I'll just do this one and master it." You're not going to master it. It's okay to try to do a whole bunch of different things. Like you can test channels too, right? Not just your content. Do Facebook, do Instagram. Doesn't mean you have to do them each 10 times a day, right? You don't have to burn yourself out on it. You could do them each once a week. Whatever, test out creating the content, publishing the content. How does that feel to you? What kind of engagement are you getting on each of these platforms? Which one do you feel like you like the process of the most? You can do multiple things, but that also doesn't mean you don't have to be everywhere. You can be everywhere, right? There's not really that much of a right or wrong way for you to do those things. You just have to test it out, but just do it with the right context and the right expectation that number one, you are not going to master anything because they like that. I feel like that's Facebook, Google, all these companies' number one rule is let's keep changing stuff and keep people confused so nobody can master it, right? Like that's in their mission
It's by
statement behind
design.
the
Yeah.
scene,
Oh,
right? It
and
very
it
much
is
is.
very much by design.
Right. So you're never going to master anything. Okay. You're never going to master. So don't have that as a goal, right? Because you will run yourself in circles trying to feel like you need to master it. So you don't need to master it. And that's also can be a weight that's lifted from you because you don't have to master it, which means you can be a novice and still put out content, right? You don't have to be an expert at TikTok to put out some TikTok content. You don't have to be an Instagram expert um, or a Facebook expert to put content there. Like try to learn a little bit about the platform, how the general kind of content that does well there or whatever, right? Obviously, you need to know is this video content, text content, short form, long form, right? Like kind of get a vibe for what that kind of stuff, and then just put your stuff out there and see what happens. Test it out.
So, if you are testing something, what are we actually looking for? Is it likes? Is it comments? Is it messages in the DM? Like, really, what should we be trying to optimize for?
Well, that's based on your goals, right?
Hmm.
So, depending on if you have a physical store, and a physical product, and you want more traffic in your store and more people in there, then you want to look at, you want to make sure that this is the content you're creating and what you're doing is location based, right? So it's a different kind of content. It's a different kind of engagement because you're engaging with your local community. If you're selling digital products and services with a specific kind of audience, how are you delivering these services? Are you delivering this, like, this one-on-one thing? I know a lot of people that's what they do. They just hop into Zoom sessions with people, work with them, right? Do you have that level of touch points, high touch with people? Then you're looking for those high touch actions from your audience. You want that high touch. If you're looking for something where you're just trying to create this evergreen situation, then maybe you just want to look that people are following steps from you, right? Like, oh, they're doing this and then this. They're following the direction of it, right? So you're going to produce content based on how you want people to engage with you and how you want them to buy from you, what that journey looks like. So you want to create content that works in that way when you're testing it, right? You want to send an email that says, click here to go see this thing over on this channel, right? That's getting them through the funnel. You're getting them to take those actions and they can see that. If it's that physical business, you're wanting to get that traffic into your store, or you're wanting more local people to talk about you or for what your business is and what you're doing.
So let's talk about building a marketing campaign. How does that work? What are we doing? And what should our, obviously not goals, that's going to be personal, but what should our testing mechanisms be?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. A campaign is something very specific, right? It's multiple kinds of content that you're putting out there in multiple places. And it's not, I posted on social media today. Like, when you're trying to create a marketing campaign, you do have a goal, right? Now, that goal could be to sell something. It could be that you have a course that you're launching. It could be, so I run a lot of challenges and I build challenges for my clients. And so, one of the biggest myths with having a challenge is that it's the best launch strategy. And I'm not saying that's not a great launch strategy, because it certainly is, but you can run challenges for all kinds of reasons, right? You can run it if you're launching a course, and sell something at the end of that challenge. But you could run a challenge as a campaign, as a marketing campaign, to test your idea and test out your ideal audience, your clients, make sure that's a good fit, and validate a product idea, right? A course idea, whatever that is. You could also run a challenge and have the goal of providing customer service. So it's a challenge that you only run for your customers to continue to engage them and do things with them. So the goal part is going to be specific to everybody, but kind of knowing what that goal is will help you. Where are you creating this content? Who are you creating it for? How much do you need? How big of a campaign is this going to be? But regardless of how small it is, like, for example, a challenge, a 5-day challenge, that seems like would be a small campaign day challenge. You need like 30 days to market it. Unless you already have a huge audience, then you could just put something out and get a whole bunch of people to sign up, right? Which sometimes a lot of gurus do. Oh, you only need a week. And maybe if you have 10,000 customers in your Facebook group, then you only need a week, because you'll get enough people in to make it worth your while. But if this is something you're doing to build an audience or offer a product or do that, you need like 30 days. So in 30 days for a campaign of any kind, I would say, no matter what you're doing, you need at least 30 days to start putting ideas and information out there. So then you have to map that out. You have to look at those 30 days and what you're putting out there and what channels you're going to use over that 30 days. So you need to post every week, at least a few times a week, over that 30 days for that campaign, right? I'm not saying you have to do that for the rest of your life, but for that campaign, so you have to have enough content for that, right? So you have to really think about that and plan it out. And what does that look like for you? How much of that can you automate so you're not running yourself ragged? How much of that can be repurposed? Can I do one video and break it up into these little pieces? Can I have it transcribed and do the blog? Can I take the audio out and do some little audio clips? Like, what kind of things you do? You really want to sit down and think about what that workflow looks like and how you're going to get enough content that has this particular key messages in it for this goal, this campaign, right? And look at how you're going to do all of that, how you're going to create it, what that workflow is, what that schedule looks like of publishing and how you're publishing and where you're publishing it. But being like, oh, I'm going to post this on Facebook today, you have to plan it out in advance. I cannot tell you the number of times that, oh, I talked about it. Oh, yeah, I see that one post on
S-
Facebook.
Yes. And this is hard. So let's talk about some strategies to creating a campaign that maybe doesn't necessarily involve batching all of your content ahead of time or creating it all ahead of time. What can you do to like build a framework so that you have an idea of what the structure is and can create on the fly if you are one of those people who cannot create ahead of time?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can make a list, right, of ideas. Like the thing is, if you have your messages, if you know what those are, and you have, it's 3 to 5 key messages, right? And each of those key messages, you have 5 different ways you say it, right? So now you've got, 25 possible messages that you can be putting out there. And so you would already know what those things are ahead of time. However long it takes you to do that. You don't have to sit down and do those key messages in a day. Those key messages can grow, they can be added to whenever something comes to you. 'Cause I have random ideas. I have documents in my ClickUp open like at all times so I can jot down because I couldn't even remember reciprocity a few minutes ago, right? Like words
Right.
leave me very, very quickly. So if you're like that, whatever works for you, could be paper and pen, could have your pen and ready to write down whatever it is. Could be a notes app in your phone, whatever process works for you to start writing those messages out because those messages are your content. And if you already have an idea of what kind of content you like to create, right? Like your video, like I'm in my office space in the corner of my bedroom right now. This is where my office is. And I have my lights up and I have my earbuds here and my computer and my camera and I have this little corner cleared out. That doesn't mean the rest of those spaces cleared out. Just this corner is, right? So that it's ready when I'm ready, right? So if you're doing video, then make the space easily accessible for you for when you're ready for it. So you can just come in. Because otherwise, one of the things that happens to me is I get that overwhelm. Oh, I got to clean a space to do the video. And then I have to, do this and I have to do that. I mean, it's just enough. I use Zoom a lot because I can do Zoom face. I don't know if y'all know what that is. But it even makes my hair look smoother. So even if my hair is a little wild, I can hop on, right? So I love that. I love that. It makes it easy for me to hop on a Zoom without feeling too self-conscious about how I look, right? And your background clear. So know what kinds of content, if you like to write, and that's your form of content, make sure that you have an area set up where you can just sit down and do that when the mood strikes you and start making that list. What are the things you want to talk about? It could just be one simple straight list. These are the things. Here's 30 things I want to talk about, potentially in the next 30 days. They might be videos, they might be blog posts, they might be posts on Instagram. Just think about what that could be for you and at least have those messages ready so that when you're in the mood, you can put that message out there quickly and easily for yourself.
I think what's key is that you have lots of opportunities, right? It doesn't have to be the 3,000 word skyscraper post to end all posts for every single topic. You can write, and I encourage you to really explore with some ways to spin written content and even video content. Talk about it for 3 minutes and then review it and go, oh, well, I can expand on this point next time. Or I can take this point and come up with this point over here. Don't make it hard. You're making it hard. And I'm really honestly speaking to myself here because I do this all of the time. I write magnum opus type things because it has to be perfect instead of publishing. That's why this year I'm focusing much more on lives and video because this is a thing that I can do and get out here and be done, and it's beautiful.
Exactly, exactly. And not only does it not to have to be this big long novel, but it also doesn't have to be epic, right? You can build up to epic with all of your little pieces here and there. And then later on, you can look at it and put it together and be like, yes, this is a book or this is a, it could turn into that. You can build up to epic. You don't have to start at epic.
No, and it's easier to take 10 small 300 word posts and edit them together into a long 3,000 word post than it is to create that 3,000 word post from scratch. I'm just
Hmm.
saying.
It is.
Again, to myself here, y'all, as much as just as much as the rest of you. Writing is very much my weakness in this particular regard. And so I think that it's important when building out campaigns to consider your strengths and weaknesses. What will you do? What will you say, I'm going to do that and not do? Can you do that ahead of time? Can you get somebody else to do that for you? How can you do those things that are supposed to be done, but you're not doing them? So,
Get out of your own way is how you
yeah,
do that.
that's correct.
And again, the thing that I said it before, and I will say it again, don't get stuck in the cycle of guilt. If you don't do a thing that you wanted to do, it's okay. Move on and do the next thing. It's okay. You will eventually create habits for yourself. And part of that, and one of the really great things about the connection capital, um, is that when you're building this in that mutual investment and that reciprocity, I can say it. When you're building it in that, one of the things that happens in relationships, now this is business, this is your customers, this could be your affiliates, your vendors, your investors, but this is also can be your friends, your family, your partners, right? One person puts in all the effort. You're the one, creating all the content, doing all the things. And that's what leads to the burnout, right? That's where we start to get overwhelmed. We get burnout, we get overwhelmed. Like, no, right? And we're talking a lot in a lot of the circles I'm in, we do talk about that burnout. And that's where it's just that one way. It's just you putting stuff out there all the time and doing stuff, and then nothing from this other side, right? And part of avoiding that burnout, part of energizing yourself, I know I need as many as I can get, right? And part of that is getting something back from somebody, helping them fill into you. And that's part of what that mutual investment is that you want to start creating content that pulls people in to give you something back as well. Because when they do that, it helps fuel you to keep going forward. It's how you help avoid that burnout. So don't get set on that you just have this, I have to create all this content and I have to do this stuff. I've got to, don't have that on. Like, how can you pull your audience in? How can you pull your people in to help energize you? What does that look like for you that will feel good to give you that energy to keep going forward?
So you had on your list for this. I knew this was going to happen with you, Alice. That you were gonna outline these episodes and cram way more stuff in than we could talk about in an hour. Way more
Actually, I
stuff.
think those might have been actually ideas for individual episodes, but that's
God, I
okay.
hope so, because
They
I
are.
don't know how we're talking about borrowing audiences and SEO in the next 10 minutes.
No, we're not.
We're not. We're not.
We're
So
not.
that's the next episode, possibly the next episode after that.
Yeah.
I think where I want to leave people today is around the organic, unpredictable nature of cultivating audience. If you don't have any control over it and you can't predict it and you can't master it, what should you do? Oh, you're stuck.
Oh, here we are.
There you
What
are.
you should
You're
do,
back.
what you should do is you should let it go. You should embrace your inner Elsa and let it go.
You should
Um,
have fun.
Yes, enjoy it. Have fun. Enjoy what you're doing because if you can't enjoy it and it's going to be brutal and miserable, then what are you doing? What kind of energy are you putting into your business if you're that stressed out about it? And here's another thing. One of the things that it tends to happen that I see a lot, and I know because I went through it myself at one point in my business, is you get this desperation
Ooh,
because you
yes.
need the money, you need the clients, you need the thing. And then that's the energy you're putting into your business is that desperation. And desperation does not attract anything to you. It repels things from you. So in that desperation, you're actually doing the opposite for building your audience. So if you need to, and this may run counter to all kinds of advice that you will ever get a part-time job or do like find something to help you generate that income so that the energy you put into your business and building your audience is a positive one. It's joyful, it's fun. Like I do not have time in my life for anything that does not bring me joy anymore. If it is not making me feel good, I'm getting rid of it. I turned 50 this year, y'all. I know I look so good for 50. I'm just
You
kidding.
always look fabulous
I
for
I
50.
yes, I turned 50 this year and it's taken me this long. Like it's just been in the last year that I have gotten to the place in Briar, you know this because we're close and we talk about a lot of things. I've drawn the line in the sand.
Hmm.
And anybody who crosses that line and they don't have joy in their heart, they're not bringing peace into my life, they're out of here. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And I'm very, very protective of that peace and that joy. And that's what I want in my business. And that's what I want for all of you to have in your businesses too. Peace, joy, not desperation and frustration and burnout, because then that's what you're putting into it. So, what are you really going to get out of it? Desperation, burnout, frustration. What does that equal when you pull that out? Nothing I want, that's for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, my friend. So, next time we will talk about borrowing audiences. And where can people find you, Alice?
Um, they can find me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Fabulous with Alice. So come be fabulous with me there. You can also find me. My website is alicemiriam.com. So you can go there. And yeah, those are pretty good places to find me.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, I am so glad we got to do this. It's fun having you on the other side and doing the majority of the talking because you're so, yes, I'm not telling you you talk a lot, Alice, just that I quite enjoy.
I make good conversation.
Yes, yes. This has been delightful.
It has.
All right, y'all. This has been another, or the first episode of Creating Your Connection Capital here on the Neurodiversity Media Network. We will drop all links in comments and show notes later. And thank you so much, y'all, for being here, for sticking around. We love all of you people. Our peoples are just all up in the comments. Love you. Love you. Love you.
Love you all.
See? That's how you do it. One little relationship at a time. All right.
That's it.
See you next time.
Bye for now.